So, listen, man, this is a zany time, right? So one thing I know, I'm pretty unsure of lots of things, but one thing I can guarantee that God is doing is He is uh, He's getting rid of the costume jewelry. No costume jewelry wanted, right? So he's definitely it's like the wheat and the chaff, right? He's separating things. Like, Jesus when he walked around had hundreds if not thousands of people who would follow him, some for the miracles, others for the powerful sermons, others man because he was a larger than life, he had a larger than life like personality, right? And then there was others because they're like, I'm all in. I'm all in, right? So there were the multitudes, and then there were the disciples, right? And so I believe that in this time, God is, you know, that's what He's doing, right? It's like, how do you know a diamond is a diamond? How do you know the difference between a real diamond and a fake diamond? There are several ways, right? Number one, if you take a diamond out inside of cold air, and if you breathe on it, and if it's a fake diamond, it'll fog up. If you go like this, right? Breathe on it, it'll fog up. If it's real, it'll remain clear. If you take a fake diamond and if you put a match to it for about maybe 30 seconds, if you heat it up, and then if you drop it in an ice cold glass of water, it'll begin to crack off a little bit. Real diamonds will not crack off. And the most obvious way, right, is to grab your hammer, put the diamond down, and smash it. And if it don't crumble, right, Isabel, it's the real thing. If it crumbles, it's not the real thing. This is what God is doing now. I'm sure of it. I'm not sure much of anything else, but I can guarantee you that. And you know what? It's an exciting time. For those of us who want to be all in, this is an exciting journey, exciting time. Matthew chapter 6, verse 18. Everybody knows it. I'm going to read it. It's going to be the Message version. It's when Jesus is sitting with his friends, his disciples, and he's like, who does everybody say I am? Who do you say I am? And then Peter gets up and says, you are the rock. No. He says, you are the Christ, right? And then Jesus says to him, he says, this is the rock on which I will put together my church. A church so expansive with energy that not even the gates of hell will be able to keep it out. I love the messages. I love Eugene Peterson's version of it. This is the rock on which I will put together my church, a church so expansive with energy that not even the gates of hell will be able to keep it out, right? So it's like, so I think what he's saying is that the church is going to equal this unstoppable force. Like listen, I remember in 1977, right? I think I was 9 years old. Okay, so yeah, I'm kind of an old man now. So in 1977, I went to go see Star Wars, and no one's ever seen a movie like that before. It was like, what? The force, right? And the force be with you. I remember that phrase. Everybody dressed up for Halloween as Luke Skywalker and Yoda and Darth Vader, right? So the church, I think of it as this unstoppable, unyielding force and energy. Kind of like, right? Like, did you ever hear that phrase, a force of nature? Like people who have larger than life personas. They're like forces of nature, right? Like Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, and of course Bruce Lee, right? Like these larger. I had to say Bruce Lee, man, the martial artist that I am, right? So these larger than life personalities, like the churches, should be this force of nature. Unstoppable, unyielding, not even the gates of hell. Think about that. So one characteristic of this kind of a force, I just want to say this word. Ready? It begins with the letter R. So I want you to guess what that is in your mind's eye. One important characteristics of this unyielding energy that we call the church, this unstoppable force, is resilience. The church must be resilient, just like a little kid, man, that falls on the ground, gets his knee skinned up, falls off his bike, man. When I used to kid, when I was a kid, man, I learned how to ride a bike at 5 years old the first time. I had no shoes or socks, right, Mom? No, I hopped on the bike and I fell, and I got up and I fell. Kids are resilient. I used to teach them in martial arts, and I used to have the kids. I used to. I'm not going to tell you what I used to do, man, because you might not ever come, here again. But Bruce Lee, he used to go outside and he used to find the hardest oak tree, and he used to bang his shin against it, just kick his shin against it, to just build up a resilience, right? The church needs to be resilient, right? So what was Jesus talking about? He's talking about this unstoppable force, right? I can't believe he was referring to a 1 hour gathering or a worship service every other week. This nice, cute gatherings or services. He was talking about this unstoppable force known as his church that is family-centric, that is defined family-centric, not gathering-centric or service-centric or meeting-centric, but family-centric. What makes a family a family? Is it our gatherings? Is it our meetings? What makes a family is because we're family. Because we do life together. We love each other consistently and continuously and share that love in our community, in our world. That's what makes a family. It's not we just gather as a family, so that makes us family. No, we continuously, recklessly love each other and do life together, man. That's what makes us an unstoppable force. But how we see things, what our perspective is in life, in everything, is 90% of the battle. Young ladies, are you listening to me? 90% of the battle. Trust me, I'm an old man. I've learned this the hard way. So Isaiah 43, beginning in verse number 18, I think. The NIV version. I love this. Listen to me. Listen to what God says. Forget the former things. Okay, I can stop right there, Tom. I can stop right there. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. The wild animals will honor me because I provide water in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland to give drink to my people, my chosen people, the people who I've formed, that they may proclaim my praise. So a couple months ago, as soon as this, and I don't want to get heavy on COVID, man. I don't want every sermon, man, to be COVID. But, a couple of months ago, man, when everybody's lives changed, I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. I was so, I was in this place of, and then I read Isaiah 43, and God was saying, forget the former things. Don't dwell on the past. I'm doing a new thing here, Tone. Don't you want to be part of it? Don't you want to go on this new journey? Don't you want to go on this whitewater rapid journey? Aren't you sick of the calm waters, man? Let's jump in a raft and go through sometimes life will be calm. Sometimes, it's whitewater rapids. God is doing a new thing. It's exciting. If you're a disciple, like a radical, sold out, all in follower of Jesus, this is an amazingly exciting time. a difficult, challenging, weird, bizarro world. It's like that Saturday Night Live episode made in the 70s, man, the bizarro world. You go to the, when you go to Walmart, right, Mark, or you go to store, and everybody's in masks and gloves and stuff, it's like the bizarro world, right? It is. But it's exciting if you're a follower of Jesus. He's doing something new. And whenever he does something new, he breathes a new life in us. And that's always a wonderful thing. It's an opportunity, man, to go to places with him that we would never go before. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse number 16. Moses is with the people of Israel, and God is saying one day they're going to ask for a king. One day the people are going to want a king. So God says this in Deuteronomy 17:16. He says, the king must not acquire a great number of horses or make the people turn into Egypt to go and get more horses. For the Lord has told you, you ready? You are not to go back that way again. In quotations, you are not to go back that way again. Let's not be people who are like, oh my God, remember how good we had it in Egypt, how comfortable and safe and neat and cozy and nice and, it was. Remember that? We are not to go back to Egypt. We are to jump in this raft excitingly and see where God is going to want to take us. Are you with me? So a couple of years ago, I was really chubby. Not that I'm kind of chubby now even, but I needed to go on a diet. So what I did is I went to the Robbinsville track, and I used to just walk like 2 miles, and then I began to jog a couple miles. And I used to go there pretty much all the time, and I used to see these old ladies. No, I'm going to call them older ladies who used to do this. You know how they do this and stuff, and they, and they speed walk. And they would be there every morning and do the same thing, Dennis. I'm going to be speed walking, the same thing. And it's like, I mean, that's cool. I mean, I did the same thing, but I feel like God is saying, get off of the track. Just get off of this, get off of the same treadmill, get off of the same track, and we don't want to because we like the track. We know the track. We are comfortable with the track. We're secure with the track. God's saying, get off the track, move on. So when I started to ride my motorcycles, I started with a 250. And then guess what I did? I went to a 400. And then I went to a 650. And then to much of my wife's chagrin, I went to a 1300. That's what you do. You just move on to bigger bikes, right? That's how the kingdom is. But I sold my bike now, so I'm really upset. I told Debbie I think it's time for a new Harley. So, anyways, that's another sermon altogether. All right, 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes. Change is fill in a blank in your mind. The one word that comes to my mind: change is constant. Think about this. Think about the world. Think about the last 100 years. The changes, no indoor plumbing to plumbing, went from horses to cars, single engine planes to rocket ships, no TV to satellite TV. Praise the Lord. Women, okay, well, I shouldn't do this, right? But women who have lots, had to towel dry their hair. There were no hair dryers, right? Now there's hair dryers. Much better. There were no child labor laws. There was no such thing as a child labor law in the 1920s and 30s. You believe that? There were no child labor laws. Women couldn't vote. Black people couldn't share the same bus or water fountain or bathroom as a white person could. They couldn't vote. I mean, think about these changes that have taken place. Pharmacies. So in the 1920s, heroin and opioids were sold legally in pharmacies. Cocaine, before the 1920s, you could go to a pharmacy and purchase cocaine in pure rock form. There were no gas stations. You had to go buy gasoline in cans at general stores. Think of the changes. Some good, some not so good. But the one constant thing is just change. And then a couple months ago, on a dime, the whole world changed. On a dime. What do we do with that? This is what we do. Malachi 3:16 says, I, the Lord, do not change. Hebrews 13:8 says, Jesus Christ is the exact same yesterday, today, and forever. We go back to the one thing that never changes, the love of God, the person of Jesus Christ. And to think we are attached to him. We are his body, like that one thing that never changes. Amongst the ever-changing everything in the world, we're part of his body. We're attached to him. So what's our responsibility in a dark, hostile, ever-changing world? So Philippians chapter 2, verse 14 through 16 in the Message says this. I love the way it ends. Do everything readily and cheerfully. No bickering, no second guessing allowed. Go into the world uncorrupted, a breath of fresh air in this squalid and polluted society. Provide people with a glimpse of good living and a glimpse of the living God. Carry the life-giving message into the night. Wow! What? Wow! I love that. I love that. So what does that mean? That we just now in this time just recklessly, go into the world irresponsibly and start hugging everybody we see and tell them, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to be irresponsible and careless and reckless at all. But what I am saying is this, and Joe can relate to me here, this, man, because Joe knows what this, Joe actually had these things as a kid. But what I can say is this, don't be a shrinky dink. If some of you who are laughing know what shrinky dinks were like. In the 70s, they had this thing that you had as kids. It was like a toy. So it was a plastic little figurine. It was like a flower or animal or like a reef, and you would color it and then put it on a cookie tray and put it in the oven, and the heat would be turned up and they would shrink. And then you would make a necklace out of it, or a ring, or a, bracelet. Shrinky dinks. Don't be a shrinky dink, man. Don't let us not shrink back. Hebrews 10 describes of the people of God. Man, Paul writes that they're losing their houses, that people are coming in and confiscating their possessions and houses. Okay? Has that happened to you? Has the government come in and have they taken away your couches and TV and homes? Well, that's what was happening in Hebrews 10. And Paul says, we are not people who shrink back, but we are people of faith, and we are people of faith, right? God says, don't shrink back. All right, wrapping up, 5 more minutes, and then I'm gonna tie a nice little bow on it. But what is the most important element that makes this unstoppable, unyielding force? What is the most important element that really makes the true church the true church? Okay, I think I know it. So you're in luck. So there's a place I used to go. So I love steaks. I love a good steak, right? Mark likes a good country fried steak. But I do too, right? But I like a good Delmonico steak. So we used to go to a place called Arthur's, and they have two sizes: 24-ounce steaks and a 44-ounce steak. That's all they had, right? And that sucker, man, was like excellent in quality. But I'm not only a quality guy, Pastor Tom. I'm also a quantity guy. Like, I need a good portion, man, on my plate. I would rather it be very good and a great portion than great and a real crappy portion. My mom likes to go to Longhorn, and she gets these little 6-ounce hockey puck steaks. It's like a hockey puck. She's like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. I'm like, Mom, it's the size of a hockey puck. Give me, I need a portion. I'm just going to read something. It's in the book of Deuteronomy. So it's in chapter 18. It's beginning here in verse number 1. It's when Moses and the people of Israel are dividing up the land among the tribes of Israel. Okay, so the land is being divided. So some people get this land and some tribes get this land, and in Deuteronomy chapter 18, beginning in verse number 1, it says this. It says that the Levitical priest and all the so I want you to hear me. So this is what God is saying to them and to you all, us all. Says here that the Levitical priests and all the tribes of Levi shall have no portion or inheritance with Israel. They shall eat of the Lord's food offerings as their inheritance. They shall have no inheritance among their brothers, for the Lord is their portion and their inheritance, as he has promised them. Let him take away our buildings. Let him take away our, listen, it's easy, man, for me to say, but let him take away my couch, take away my building, take away my TV, take away my job. Let him take it away. When the Lord is your portion, what else really matters? I mean, Jesus is either your portion or your portion is a secure building or a nice meeting time or a meeting place or a job or a woman or a man or a checking account or savings account. Let him take it away. I mean, it's like the Apostle Paul says, I'm good. I got a little bit of food. I got a lot of food. I'm good. I'm good because Jesus is my portion. I can do all things. This is the primary thing. This is the DNA. This is the DNA that makes a disciple, man. The church. When Jesus is our portion, okay? Our portion does not, it's not a building. It's, it's not a service. It's, it's not another person. It's not a job. It's not a savings account. Jesus is our portion. I mean, I am convinced of one thing, and I'll go back and I'm going to close it right here. It's like I'm just a dude, right? I've been following Jesus for 27 years, and I get lots of things wrong, man. Lots of things wrong. At the end of the day, I'm just this sinner saved by grace. I'm just a dude. But I am sure, man, that the hammer is out, and the costume jewelry is over here, and the real stuff is over here, and God is separating it. Okay? And the true church is not, it never was, and it's not made up of the multitudes. It's made up of radical, sold out disciples who say, I'm all in. I'm all in. And this is what God is saying.